A little bit of drama heading into Selection Sunday this past weekend. We knew Montana State would be the 1 seed. Who would get the 2? Well, the Jacks slotted as the 3 seed, the Yotes get the 4, and it's the Bison coming off a loss who get the nod as the 2 seed. Bit surprised. I did think the Jacks would get the nod, but totally fair that it's the Bison. Their only loss in the FCS this season was to a top 5 opponent on the road by a single point. Have no problem with NDSU being the 2 seed. They have a very good resume, and they've earned it. Let's take a look now at the Jacks' potential road to Frisco. Starts with a really, really intriguing first-round matchup. Could be Tennessee State, led by Eddie George, Heisman Trophy winner at Ohio State, NFL running back. He's done a nice job with that program. Or the Montana Grizzly. Would be a rematch of last year's FCS National Championship. Very, very fun second-round matchup. Kudos to the committee. That is a game that the nation will want to see. I don't believe, could be wrong, but I don't believe Montana has ever come to Brookings, so that would be a first. Would expect a good turnout at the Dyke House for that one. Coming up next, if the Jacks win that game, a rematch potentially with Incarnate Word. Incarnate Word, in my opinion, the best passing team I've seen the Jacks play this season. You would have to think, though, that game in Brookings won't have the best weather. And if that's the case, obviously it will favor the running team. The Jacks much better on the ground than the Word. So I do think the Jacks could get past them, but never easy to beat a team twice in a season. And that's what South Dakota State would have to do. And that would potentially, if the Bison take care of business, set up another rematch in Fargo with these two powerhouse programs. I'll tell you, I think it's a really good draw for South Dakota State. And I debated people about this yesterday and on Saturday. I just think this is what the program thrives off of. Jimmy Rogers, that guy is motivation. You look up the definition of a motivator, it's Jimmy Rogers. It's all right in the table. You don't have to get the guys ready for this kind of game. If you would have told the team back in October when they played North Dakota State up in the Dome, and you went in that locker room after the game, after the loss, and asked every player and every coach in that locker room, would you sign up for a chance to come back here, semifinal game with a chance to go to Frisco on the line? Every single one of those dudes would have signed on the dotted line on the spot. That's what they could earn if they take care of business. I think it will be an awesome scene. Actually, I know it'll be an awesome scene. And that game will be one for the ages. Let's remember, the Bison very, very well could leave the FCS. We might not get many more of these matchups moving forward. That's going to be a game to remember, and I think the program will relish the opportunity to make amends with what happened a few months back. Also, too, want to give some credit to Matthew. I think it's Frazee. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I saw on Twitter, he tweeted out that if the Jacks advance to that game, Mark Gronowski will have 49 wins as a starter in the FCS. If they are to win that game, the Jacks, would top Easton Stick's all-time winning record in the FCS. That would give him his 50th win. What a narrative that would be if the Jacks and Gronowski can pull it off. Just something to think about in the future. I now want to get to USD, who had an incredible win over NDSU this past weekend, and I have to start with Bob Nielsen. I've said it on my radio show, and I will again. I was completely wrong about that guy. In 2022, after the program went 3-8, I thought they needed a change. Thought they needed something to spark the program, that they had plateaued with Nielsen. I was wrong. He has done, and that staff has done, a remarkable job turning around their team. If you would have told someone 2 years ago that at this point the Coyotes would be Missouri Valley Conference champions, would have a legit case to be the 2 seed in the FCS playoffs, nobody would have believed you. Nobody. It is remarkable what they have done, and it won't get the national attention it deserves because the FCS just doesn't have the following that the FBS does, but it should. It's that dramatic of a turnaround. They win 10 games out of nowhere last year, and they've gotten better this season. Their defense is so athletic. Their offense is so physical. They can hang with anyone. They have shown that. They've proven it. Just beat the Bison, took the Jacks to overtime in Brookings. They have the talent to win a national championship, which is crazy. No one would have thought that 2 years ago. It's remarkable. They deserve all the credit in the world. Good for them. I do want to talk about the fan base for a minute. Got some pictures from the game of the crowd. You could see on TV as well, it wasn't quite a packed house. And it is a bit disappointing. We're talking about a game with the number 1 team in the country in town, a Missouri Valley Conference championship on the line, and it's senior day. And oh, by the way, your team is awesome this year. Probably the best team in program history, and it wasn't a packed place. Look, it's the Dome. It's indoors. It's 9,000 seats and change. It wasn't a terrible day travel-wise, weather-wise outside. That program and that university is absolutely capable of filling that place to the brim, and it wasn't. And as a fan of USD, if you want to push the program forward, you've got to be there, period. It was a good crowd. You could hear on TV, heard from people at the game that it was loud in there and that they did play a factor in the game. But it wasn't a packed house, and I think it should be. So for all the people who tweeted at me, ripping me, and DM me, that's fine, but I hope you were at the game if you're going to say something about it. So the bracket is set. Jacks and Yotes on the opposite side. It is possible, although a lot has to happen, that these two programs from South Dakota meet in Frisco, Texas on January 6th with the national championship on the line.